Hey, what's going on internet? Josh Noel from Sunduck Film. So in this video, I want to talk about color correcting and grading using After Effects. So After Effects wasn't built to be a color correction tool. However, you can still use After Effects to do some awesome color correcting and grading, and you should be able to get about any look that you're trying to go for. But the reason why I want to do After Effects color grading tutorial is because most color grading tutorials for After Effects don't usually take advantage of scopes, and then they say, oh, this is how you can go get the film look. And I'm not even sure what that means, the film look. I mean, there's really two definitions. One definition could be back in the day when when filmmakers actually used film. And today, the more current definition would be like, oh, what you see when you go to the theater and you see like a film that was shot on a digital sensor, like a red camera or an Arri camera. But my definition of film, and I'll get into that in a second, is you kind of need to use scopes. And a lot of these tutorials don't use scopes in After Effects. And the problem is because After Effects doesn't have any built-in scopes. So here's our raw clip, and over here is kind of what we'll have at the end of the day. But right here, we have our clip, and we can click on Effect, Symphonetic Aperture, and we can click on this SA Color Finesse 3. And this is a plugin that comes with After Effects. I think it was introduced when CS6 came out. I may be wrong about that, but it was introduced several versions ago. But here's the effect, and we have two drop downs here. We have this simplified interface, which has all the basic color grading tools. But if we go ahead and click on full interface, it'll open up in another little piece of software here, this plugin called Color Finesse 3, and I find it to be very awesome because it has scopes. And if you want to color correct properly, pull off professional grades, and I guess more specifically get that film look, you have to kind of use scopes and kind of understand how they work. So let's look at this waveform right here. And basically, it's a chart from 100 to 0, so from 0 to 100. And basically, we can consider this the IRE scale. And at 100, that's basically saying that is pure white. And at 0, that is pure black. So basically, you want to be able to get all your information between 0 to 100 to have that perfect, look. So it kind of looks more theatrical. It doesn't look amateur. So in amateur video, usually things might be blown out or just completely crushed. So we're talking about pulling off a nice grade and being able to use these scopes. And we'll talk a little bit about the vector scope in a bit, but let's go ahead and kind of get started with some basic corrections. So we have all of our correction tools right here. And basically, in order to get started, we just have to start using some of these parameters. So maybe the first thing I'll do, since basically this is a nicely balanced out image, maybe I'll add some contrast for the start here, and I'll just go here to the contrast, and I'll up that by a little bit. See how far we want to go with it, and that should be fine. And, it's a good start. I mean, it's not really a nice looking image, but I always like starting off with contrast. And I guess I can maybe brighten this up a little bit. But let's see, let's go ahead and adjust the gamma here. Not so much. So as I adjust the gamma, basically our chart rises and stuff like that. So right now we have a little bit of blown out information, and that's probably coming from the curtain right here and this little light at the top. As you can see, we have this little blown out piece right here is clearly that light bulb. And nothing's completely crushed, so that means our black levels are perfect, and we're looking pretty cool. So the one thing I want to try to keep in mind, I want to put out there, is that skin tones, really shouldn't go past 75 IRE or typically 70. I mean, it's really up to you. You should have a preference on that. But right now, I mean, the skin tones are kind of hot, and we'll talk about adjusting those as we move forward here. But let's go ahead and add a little bit of saturation to this image so we can kind of get a feel for what we're trying to go for here. And I'm just trying to create like a clean look, keep things saturated. It's kind of a comedy, so I'm trying to keep things clean and easy to look at. So up the saturation just by a little bit. Maybe I'll increase the vibrance as well because I like having a little bit of variation in color. And maybe we'll say that's cool. So I mean, it's already looking interesting. Skin tones might be a little bit hot. What's cool about this plugin that there's a lot of breakdowns in this plugin. So basically right now we can control the highlights, midtones, and shadows. And let's start with the shadows. So I'm gonna go ahead and check that on. And as you can see, this looks terrible. One thing I needed to do is adjust the contrast on this to kind of balance it back out. So I'll just go here and I'll Let's go ahead and, you know, bring down the contrast a little bit. And this really isn't ideal, but you know what, I can pretty much get close to back where I wanted this to be. And basically maybe what we can do is raise up the gamma on the contrast, and that will kind of bring things up. Now let's go ahead and click on like the midtones here, and we can continue, you know, maybe we can adjust some of this a little bit. So maybe we can raise the gamma up a little bit more. And then let's go ahead and maybe adjust the pedestal here. And that'll kind of bring things down a little bit. And then finally, for the full control, since we balanced out our image completely, so basically our, you know, our shadows are brought up, our midtones are pretty good. The only problem is the highlights, and you know, this is not looking so good because now she's even more blown out. But now we're going to control that, since we just individually controlled each of the channels to make this, you know, really balanced out, and things are looking really nice other than the skin tones. So let's go ahead and, you know, go to the highlights and check that on, and now we can start adjusting that. So basically what we need to do is go to the pedestal here, and let's go ahead and lower that, and that will start bringing down the highlights on the skin tones. And I'll leave it at that for now. So you know, right now it's really flat, but that's okay. We're gonna go ahead and start adjusting more parameters and making this look nice, but everything is completely balanced out once again. So now that we have full control over our, you know, our range of, you know, light here, basically, you know, they're looking a little saturated, and, you know, we're going to go here and start adjusting this. So what we can do is go to the hue offsets, and this will bring up, you know, our basic color wheels. And, you know, we can kind of create an orange teal sort of look this way. But, you know, one thing I'll do is go to the shadows here, and I'll go ahead and drag this down to the blues. And this will like fill in the blues and the shadows. And then, you know, I can go to the highlights, and maybe we can adjust where things are heading. So, you know, right now things are looking a little red. Maybe we can point it more in the yellow direction. So we do a little before and after that. So it's looking pretty cool. And then maybe, you know, go to the midtones, and, you know, maybe we can add a little bit of warmth to the image. So there's a lot of control over this, and, you know, it's really awesome. So our image is, you know, looking pretty good. It's still a little bit flat because the, you know, the dark areas are, you know, about a little bit above 10 IRE, and we really want to bring that down a little bit, you know, bring down that information. So what we can do is maybe go to the levels here, and let's go ahead and click on this black point here, and we can kind of like just drag that in, and that will desaturate, or not desaturate, it will start crushing our blacks a little bit. And I'll leave it at that for now. So now, you know, it's looking a little bit dark on, you know, the midtones and highlights, but the, you know, the shadows look pretty good. So what we can do is maybe go to this white point here and drag that in a little bit. So now this is looking really good. I mean, I really like this image, but if we want to have a little bit more control, as you can see right now, nothing is being crushed, nothing is being blown out. Things are looking nice, but this image is a little bit more red, you know, a little bit red for me. What we can do, just, you know, go to maybe the red channel here, enable that, and then maybe we can go over to our output, and we can kind of like drag that in a little bit. And that will kind of control how much red is in this image. Another tool I want to take a look at is the Luma range, and we go ahead and turn that on. And we can kind of use these points over here to control, you know, how bright we want our image to be. It's just another like little chart for us to work with. I normally would never use something like this, but just for this tutorial, I kind of just want to use these points to kind of explore how, you know, flexible this plugin is. And so a little bit before and after. That's a little bit before, a little after. We kind of brighten things up just by a little bit. And then the last thing I want to take a look at is this limiting chart here. So, of course, this image was, you know, was a pretty good shot. And, you know, I had nothing blown out, and, you know, color grading has been pretty smooth. But let's say if you do blow something out. And just for these purposes, let me go here and let me just blow something out. Let me just go ahead and increase the brightness. And as you see, as I increase the brightness, this image, you know, this chart starts to go up. So let's just go to 100. Okay, so things are, you know, very close to be blown out. So if we want, we can go to the limiting over here, and we can enable the soft clip enable. And basically we can say we want things to be smooth, and we want to have like the bright pixels to kind of smooth out. So I can control these levels here. So like, as you can see, if I turn this off, our tone curve starts to kind of curve out a little bit. So this is kind of how film works. Basically, when you get to your complete white pixel point, like 100 IRE, things start to curve out. And if we enable a curve, we can enable control over our image. So if you have something blown out but you don't want it to be completely clipped, we can enable the soft clipped here. And as you can see, if you look at the histogram, enable that right away, brings that down. And we can come here and we can like start adjusting these controls a little bit, and we can even bring this down even more, and it'll kind of just gray things out, but typically this is cool just to enable, so make sure nothing is blown out. And I'm gonna go back to our HSL, and let me go ahead and just set that back to 0. And honestly, things are looking really good. And so one thing we want to take another look at is our skin tones. And let's go here and go to the secondary. Let's turn that on. And let's go here, let's go to like sample 1, and let's select, maybe these skin tones here. Maybe I'll go to sample 2 and maybe select another range. Maybe I'll select hers. And then we'll go ahead and click on show preview. And this gives us a little bit indication of where the skin tones are at. And the skin tone line is about right here. If you want natural skin tones, or if you want to kind of follow that rule of tonality, the skin tone line is about like right at this line right here. And as we can see, the information is pretty close to being there. And so really this is a good thing to take a look at this, see where skin tone's at, and make sure they're not over here. And if they are, you can go to like the color wheel and adjust that and make some changes that way. But make sure we turn this off. And I think overall this looks like a nice image, and when we're done, we can just click OK, and it'll update automatically here in After Effects. So overall, we have a nice looking image here in After Effects. We follow the rules, we use scopes, nothing is blown out, nothing is completely crushed. So overall, I think we did a good job on this grade, or color correction, shall I say, because it's not really, we didn't really add any true color to this. And the one thing we should take a look at over here is the simplified interface. As we can see, our parameters have been changed because we can now adjust this in After Effects. And one thing we take another look at is maybe the curves here. And one thing I like to do maybe is take out some of these reds. I don't know. I mean, it's already looking pretty nice. But what we can do is maybe go to the black here, and we can like drag this in a little bit, and it'll kind of bring out some of the reds take out some of the reds in this wood here and in the background. And we can kind of create some S curves, which I like to do that just for fun, to kind of create an interesting grade. But you don't have to do this. This is more of just experimenting with me. I like doing this sort of thing. And we kind of changed up the image, give it a kind of a different look. We kind of graded it a little bit. You can get pretty crazy with this, so I suggest just maybe experimenting with this and you creating unique looks. So if you guys have any questions or any requests for tutorials, please drop a comment down below or hit me up on my social media networks. Those links are in the description of this video. And if you found this video helpful, please drop a like. It helps me out tremendously. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing for more videos just like this. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and hopefully I'll see you soon.